Hello, I welcome you all to the 20th online lecture of the course Engineering Thermodynamics. In the previous lecture, we have studied the concept of Brayton cycle. In today's lecture, we will try to see three different cycles: Otto cycle, diesel cycle, and dual cycle. Okay, so all these three cycles are nothing but related to the reciprocating work producing devices or reciprocating heat engines. So all these cycles are relevant to our automobiles. Okay, because in case of our automobiles also we are using nothing but reciprocating type mechanism in order to produce work done, and we call these nothing but internal combustion engine because combustion is taking place inside the cylinder piston arrangement. Okay, so let me first briefly introduce the concept of reciprocating engines. So in reciprocating engines, what we are having a cylinder. So this black color boundary over here, this is nothing but our cylinder, and then apart from that we are having a device which we call as piston, and this piston basically reciprocates between two different boundaries. So the bottom boundary is something which is known as BDC or bottom dead center, and top boundary is known as top dead center. Okay, and whatever the distance which piston travels in between the bottom and the top, that is something which is known as the stroke of the piston. Okay, and the internal diameter of the cylinder, or I can say that the diameter of the piston, is something which is known as bore. Apart from that, what we are having the arrangement of valves which allow our air fuel mixture to enter inside, and then whatever the products of combustion we are having, these are actually taken out to the atmosphere with the help of by the using the exhaust manifold. Okay, and for controlling the timing or opening of the valve, we are having certain arrangement of camshaft. So over here, this is nothing but our intake valve which is at the intake port, and this is our exhaust valve. Okay, now if you try to see what will be happening, as the piston will be moving from top dead center to bottom dead center, and bottom dead center to once again to the top dead center. Okay, so if you try to see, we will be having two extreme volumes. One volume will be corresponding to nothing but bottom dead center. Okay, so this position over here is nothing but corresponding to our bottom dead center. So let me write volume as V corresponding to BDC. Another volume we will be having corresponding to the topmost position of the piston. So this second one is nothing but corresponding to topmost position of the piston. So at the topmost position of the piston, whatever volume we are having, let me write it as VTDC. Okay, so what is normally done, whatever this VBDC we are having, this is something which is known as the total volume of the cylinder. So this is our total volume. Okay, and the volume which is at the top dead center, as this represents the clearance between the cylinder head and the piston wall, so that's why it is also known as clearance volume. So whatever the volume we are having corresponding to top dead center, that normally we call as clearance volume. Okay, then what we are having certain volume which is actually occupied by the displacement of the piston. So for example, if you see this shaded region over here up till this top dead center and starting from the bottom dead center, so this region of volume in between the top dead center and the bottom dead center is something which is known as displacement volume. So I am writing it as V displacement, or many times it is also known as stroke volume. Okay, so if I have to write displacement volume, I can simply write that V displacement is nothing but equal to our volume corresponding to top dead center. Sorry, so I'll take minus of this, minus of volume corresponding to top dead center plus of volume corresponding to our bottom dead center. So this difference of these two volumes will be nothing but our displacement volume. Okay, then one more important term we are having, which is nothing but our compression ratio. So what basically is being done inside this piston cylinder arrangement, when the piston will be moving from top dead center to bottom dead center, during that time normally intake valve will be open and air fuel mixture will be allowed to enter inside the piston. And after that, what will be happening, when the piston will be moving in upward direction, during that time what happens, basically both these valves are in closed position and whatever the air fuel mixture we are having, that will be actually compressed. So what we do, we define one term as compression ratio, and we will be using a symbol R for compression ratio, and this compression ratio is nothing but volume corresponding to bottom dead center. So we are considering total volume divided by volume corresponding to top dead center. Okay, so this is nothing but our compression ratio over here. Okay, so this is the typical arrangement of the reciprocating piston cylinder devices in order to convert heat energy into work energy, and how the sequence of different processes happens, that let us try to see in our subsequent slide. Now before this, one important term I will just explain first. So what we are having, when we will be having the power stroke within our piston, so what will be happening during the power stroke, our piston will be expanding because of high pressure and high temperature gases in between the clearance zone. Okay, so whatever the volume we will be having in between the top portion of the piston and head of the cylinder, inside that after the combustion we will be having high temperature and high pressure gases, and against these high temperature and high pressure gases our piston will be expanding, and the process of expansion will be nothing but isentropic. So generally the process of expansion, if we consider for ideal cycles, our expansion process will be nothing but isentropic. Okay, so a typical cycle is represented over here, PV diagram. So how this actually come, that we will try to see in the subsequent slide, but first let me briefly introduce that. Let us consider this is the point at which we have started our compression process. So what will be happening, this from, say if I am writing from point number 1 to point number 2, I will be having nothing but isentropic compression. Then during this 2 to 3, what will be happening, spark plug will be actually igniting the air fuel mixture, and there will be combustion. So because of the combustion, what will be happening, a large amount of heat will be releasing, and because of that suddenly there will be increase in pressure and temperature of the gases. Okay, so this process number 2 to 3 is nothing but it is depicting our combustion process. Okay, combustion of air and fuel mixture. And after that, what will be happening from point number 3, because now we are having high pressure and high temperature gases in the clearance volume. So because of the high pressure of the gases, these will be now moving or displacing the piston in downward direction. So we will be having this 3 to 4 as nothing but, say if I consider this point as point number 4, so this point process number 3 to 4 will be nothing but isentropic expansion process. Okay, and then from 4 to 1, because we have to now complete the cycle, so we will be doing certain amount of heat rejection. Because of that, gases will be once again coming back to the initial point. So this will be a typical cycle in case of reciprocating machines. So now if you try to see what will be happening, area under this PV loop will be nothing but whatever the net amount of work done which we are getting from our engine. Okay, now generally what happens, if you try to see this expansion process from 3 to 4, you will be finding, as this is a PV diagram, so you will be finding that at each and every point during the expansion process your pressure and volume are changing. Okay, but what we do, if we consider that whatever the work we are having, if same amount of work we are getting under certain pressure, which is remaining constant during the whole expansion process, that type of pressure is something which we call as nothing but our mean effective pressure. Okay, so what we are doing in actual practice, our pressure is different. Okay, however, we are taking certain assumption that we are getting the same amount of work while the piston is displacing between the maximum and minimum limits of the cylinder volumes, and during that time, if we consider that our pressure is uniform, so what we can do, we can equate this work with pressure into change in volume. Why? Because if you try to see now what we are having a piston cylinder arrangement. So piston cylinder arrangement, inside that we are having the mixture of air plus fuel. Okay, and this air and fuel mixture will be then after combustion leading to the products of combustion. Okay, so these gases are nothing but confined inside a boundary, and that boundary is displacing. So this is nothing but a closed system. So inside a closed system, we know that work done is nothing but equal to integration of PdV. So because of that integration of PdV, if we consider that hypothetically we are having a constant pressure during the entire expansion process, so I can simply equate work is nothing but equal to, if I consider P as constant, P into V max minus V minimum. Okay, so that is what we have done over here. So whatever this area we are having inside the PV loop, same area I have taken over here between the bounds of V minimum and V maximum, such that we are having a constant pressure during the entire expansion stage. So that pressure is something which is known as mean effective pressure, and mean effective pressure is a parameter which is used to characterize the size of the engine, or I can say the net work producing tendency of an engine. Okay, so now we have come to know about the different terminologies which are required for analysis of reciprocating engines. Now let us try to see that what is the working of an actual 4-stroke SI engine. So by SI, I mean to say spark ignition engine. So when we go for categorization of the engines, particularly the engines, reciprocating type engines, we are having two types of combustion arrangements. Either we can have combustion because of some spark, or we can have the self ignition of the fuel. Okay, so now first we are talking about nothing but our spark ignition engines. So in actual practice, let me tell you, generally in case of the SI engines, we are having petrol as our fuel. Okay, so normally you might have seen that in majority of the lightweight vehicles, including our cars, bikes, etc., our engines are nothing but petrol engines. So all these engines are of the type spark ignition. Okay, then apart from that, we are having two different mechanical arrangements. Either we can have the complete completion of the cycle in 4 strokes, or we can have the completion of the cycle in 2 strokes. So 2-stroke engines were earlier used typically in bikes, etc., but nowadays, because of certain limitations associated with 2-stroke engines, these are almost obsolete, and mainly 4-stroke engines are being employed in the recent automobiles. Okay, so let us first try to see the complete mechanical cycle, that how it works. Okay, so we are having over here the schematic representation of the piston cylinder arrangement, and we are having the corresponding pressure and volume loop. Okay, so the very first thing which happens over here, what we have represented, that is nothing but a compression stroke. So first thing over here is nothing but our compression stroke. So what is basically compression stroke? What happens when we are having piston at nothing but bottom dead center location? So this point is corresponding to our bottom dead center. So when we are having this point, after this bottom dead center, what will be happening? We will be whatever the air fuel mixture we are having inside, we will be compressing that air fuel mixture. Okay, and during that time both our intake and exhaust valve will be closed. Okay, so what we are doing, we are nothing but pushing our mixture of air and fuel against some fixed boundary wherever the bottom boundary is actually displacing. Okay, so because of that, what will be happening, there will be increase in pressure of the air and fuel mixture. So from this point, whatever this line we have represented over here, till this point, this is nothing but our compression stroke. Okay, so compression stroke will be ending nearly close to the top dead center, and when piston is close enough to the top dead center, during that time what will be happening, there will be some spark will be generated with the help of this spark plug. So because of this spark, what will be happening, there will be now combustion of the fuel. Okay, so because of the combustion of the fuel, it will be releasing the energy or the chemical energy stored into it in the form of heat energy. Because of that, when heat will be added to the mixture of air and fuel, there will be increase in the pressure and temperature of the gases. Okay, so in case of petrol engine, what happens, when what we are having inside this piston cylinder volume, we are having nothing but mixture of air and fuel, and that mixture of air and fuel is ignited with the help of a device which we call as nothing but our spark plug. So this device generally we call as nothing but our spark plug. Okay, so this spark plug is timed in such a fashion so that when piston will be close enough to the top dead center, only then it will be igniting the mixture of air and fuel. And because of this combustion process, what will be happening, we will be having release of significant amount of heat, which will lead to increase in temperature and pressure of the gases. So that is what we have depicted over here. So from this point, ignition is starting, and because of the ignition, there is sudden increase of pressure, and when the combustion is ending, after that point, what will be happening, there will be now expansion of the piston in downward direction. So over here you can see, once the combustion is done, it means our pressure has increased. Because of the high pressure which is acting on the top boundary of the piston, because of that, piston will start moving in downward direction. So this is the now the displacement of the piston in downward direction. So as the piston will be moving in downward direction, obviously the volume of the cylinder is increasing, and due to the expansion, what will be happening, whatever the pressure we are having, that pressure will also decrease. So this line is nothing but corresponding to our expansion stage. Okay, then generally what is done, once the expansion is taking place, a few degrees before, or a few degrees before the piston has reached the bottom dead center, this exhaust valve is actually opened. Okay, so once exhaust valve is opened, so this is the point at which exhaust valve has been opened. So what will be happening now, whatever the high pressure gases we are having inside this piston cylinder arrangement, these high pressure gases will be nothing but moving in outward pipeline. Okay, because now what we have done, we have opened this exhaust valve, so this will be entering into the atmosphere through our exhaust manifold. Okay, so during this exhaust process also, what happens, gases are moving in outside ambient, and at the same point of time, after the piston has reached the bottom dead center, now the piston will be once again will be moving towards the top side. Okay, so while the piston is moving in upward direction, what it will be doing, whatever the remaining gases are there inside the piston cylinder, these remaining gases will also be entering into the ambient. So it means this was the point at which exhaust valve has opened. Due to opening of the exhaust valve, suddenly the gases has moved in outward ambient. So because of that, suddenly there is drop of pressure, and after this point, after reaching to the bottom dead center, as piston has started moving in upward direction, so because of the upward movement of the piston, whatever the remaining gases were there, these gases will also be moving in outward direction. Okay, so this point is nothing but corresponding to the end of the exhaust stroke. After the exhaust stroke has ended, it means piston has reached the top dead center. After that point, what will be happening? Now our intake valve will be opening and piston will move in downward direction. So because of that, what will be happening? This stroke is something which is known as intake stroke of the piston, and because of the intake stroke, air fuel mixture will be entering inside. So over here, if you try to see what is happening, air fuel mixture is actually entering inside the cylinder. Okay, so during that time, you see what is happening. Your piston is moving in downward direction. It means volume is increasing, and at the same point of time, mixture of air and fuel is also increasing. So if the rate of piston displacement and the rate at which air and fuel mixture is entering into the piston cylinder arrangement are same, so because of that, what will be happening? The pressure during the intake stroke will be remain almost constant. Now one important point we have to note over here, that in case of petrol engine, what happens? Mixture of air and fuel is actually allowed to enter during the intake stroke. However, when we will be going for the compression ignition engines or our diesel engines, in case of diesel engines, what we will be doing, we will be allowing only air to enter into the cylinder during the intake stroke. Okay, another important point we have to note down, that generally what we do, whatever the exhaust gases are coming out, these exhaust gases are nothing but sent to atmosphere. So because of that, the pressure inside the cylinder during the exhaust stroke will be slightly more than the atmospheric pressure. So this is our atmospheric pressure, and during exhaust you can see pressure is slightly more than the exhaust pressure. Because of that only, gases will move from inside cylinder to the ambient. Okay, if you follow the intake stroke on this PV diagram, you will be finding that pressure during the intake stroke is slightly less than the atmospheric pressure. Why? Because what we do, whenever the fresh air is taken into the cylinder, so fresh air is also taken from the surrounding atmosphere only. So that's why what will be happening, as the pressure in atmosphere is equal to P atm, so the pressure inside the cylinder has to be slightly lower than the atmospheric pressure, then only airflow will be coming into the cylinder. Okay, now one important point you have to remember over here, if you see what is happening, this piston has actually first moved from bottom dead center to top dead center. So it means it has completed one stroke. Then it has moved during the power stroke from top dead center to bottom dead center. So it means this is nothing but our second stroke. Then exhaust of the gases has taken place in one complete stroke, and then in the final stroke there is intake. So that's why, because piston is covering stroke length 4 times in order to complete this entire cycle, that's why we call this engine as nothing but our 4-stroke engine. And in 2-stroke engine, what will be happening? In 2-stroke engine, 2 processes happen simultaneously. Okay, so that is the major difference. Now one important point also you will be finding over here, if you try to see during this, because this piston cylinder will be nothing but further connected to a crankshaft. Okay, so if you try to see, our actual mechanism will be something like this. This is our cylinder, this is our nothing but piston, and this piston is connected to some, say, some shaft, and then that shaft will be actually connected to some more. So shaft, this particular shaft is known as crankshaft, and whatever this rod is there in between the piston and the crankshaft, this rod is something which is known as our connecting rod. Okay, so what basically will be happening, so this type of mechanism you will be studying later on in your course on theory of machines. So this type of mechanism is nothing but known as slider crank mechanism. Okay, so in this slider crank mechanism, what will be happening, this crank will be having certain rotation, and because of the rotation of the crank, as we are having connecting rod in between, it will be converting the rotating motion of the crankshaft into sliding motion of the piston cylinder arrangement. Okay, so one important thing we have to note it down over here, that while the piston will be moving from bottom dead center to top dead center, the distance from bottom, when it will be covering the distance from bottom dead center to top dead center, our crankshaft will be having rotation of 180 degree. Okay, so crankshaft will be rotated by an angle of 180 degree. Then during the displacement of the piston from top to bottom, once again we will be having one more 180 degree. So it means in 2 strokes it has covered how many revolutions? It has covered 2 revolutions. Okay, sorry, in 2 strokes it has completed 1 revolution. So what will be happening then, in the remaining 2 strokes, once again we will be having 1 more revolution. So it means when these 4 strokes will be happening, we will be having 2 revolutions of the crankshaft. Okay, so it means if you try to see, mechanically the crankshaft has rotated 2 times. So it means in case of 4-stroke engine, for 2 revolutions of the crankshaft, we will be having only 1 power stroke. Okay, so that is one important point you have to remember, particularly in case of a 4-stroke engine, for 2 revolutions of the crankshaft, we will be only having a single power stroke, because 1 stroke length will be completed by 1 stroke length will be completed in nothing but 180 degrees of crankshaft revolution. Okay. Now one more important point you have to remember, that when we are having the spark ignition engine, in case of spark ignition engine, when piston is reaching close to the top dead center. So here you can see this point, ignition point is nothing but very close to the top dead center. Then spark will be ignited, and because we are already having a homogeneous mixture of air and fuel inside our cylinder, because of that suddenly there will be the combustion process, and combustion process will be very, very rapid. Because of rapid combustion of the air and fuel mixture, what we will be having in case of spark ignition engine, most of the combustion will be taking place at constant volume only. So that's why if you see over here, this combustion process is nothing but representing very small change of the volume. So it means in case of petrol engines, the entire combustion of the fuel takes place when piston is close enough to the top dead center. So it means the combustion process, we can idealize this as nothing but constant volume combustion process. Okay. Then another important point which I would like to highlight, so this is nothing but our actual 4-stroke SI engine. Okay, when we will be doing the thermodynamic analysis, we cannot call this one as thermodynamic cycle. Why we cannot call this as thermodynamic cycle? Because in case of thermodynamic cycle, what happens? Whatever the working fluid we are having, that working fluid remains same, and that keeps on revolving through the different mechanical components. Okay. However, in this cycle, what is happening? During the exhaust stroke, whatever the products of combustion we are having, these are sent to the atmosphere, and once again fresh charge or fresh air fuel mixture is taken from the surroundings, and fuel is actually injected in the intake manifold. Okay, so if you try to see our actual 4-stroke petrol engine or diesel engine, these are not our thermodynamic cycles. Okay, However, when we have to consider the ideal cycles, because already we have seen some of the air standard assumptions, so what we have to do, we have to avoid certain processes. Okay, so the very first assumption says that whatever heat addition process we are having, that process nothing but whatever the combustion process we are having, that process nothing but we have to replace with a heat addition process. Okay, so in our actual practice, what we will be doing, we will not consider that we are having a spark plug which is actually igniting the mixture of air and fuel. Rather, we will be considering that whatever the heat we are getting over here because of the combustion of the fuel, that heat we are nothing but adding from certain external source, and that heat addition process we are doing particularly for SI engines, we are doing at nothing but our constant volume. Okay, second assumption what we have to consider, now we will not say that we are having mixture of air and fuel. When we will be going for the ideal cycle, we will be considering that we are having nothing but only air as our working medium. Okay, now third assumption what we have to do, because it is not becoming identical to that of a thermodynamic cycle, and particularly if you try to see during the exhaust process what is happening, the hot gases, though these gases are having temperature close to atmospheric temperature, but if you physically see the pressure temperature will be above than atmospheric temperature. Okay, however pressure will be close to atmospheric pressure. So if you try to see over here, when actually the exhaust valve is opening, its pressure is also slightly above than the atmospheric pressure. So because of that, what will be happening, as during the exhaust stroke, high temperature and high pressure gases will be entering into the atmosphere, so certain amount of heat will be rejected to the surrounding. So another thing what we have to do, we have to remove this exhaust process with the help of certain heat rejection process, okay, in order to achieve the thermodynamic cycle. And another important point what we have to take into consideration is that whatever the in our mechanical cycle, fresh air fuel mixture is entering every time, we have to consider that we are having fixed amount of working fluid inside our piston cylinder arrangement, and that working fluid is only undergoing through the certain processes. Okay, so now let us try to see. So over here what I have done, I have first explained you the actual 4-stroke SI engine. Now what we will be doing, we will be actually going for our ideal 4-stroke cycle. Okay, so this type of SI engine based ideal cycle is known as Otto cycle. So it was actually proposed by Nicholas Otto somewhere in 1870. Okay, so this Otto cycle is nothing but idealized version of whatever we have seen previously. So if you try to see whatever the assumptions I have told, now this piston cylinder arrangement is shown as per the mentioned assumptions. Okay, so what we are having now, we are having a piston over here, then we are having a cylinder, and now we are not having any intake port and exhaust port. So we are having a closed cylinder boundary. Okay, and inside that we are having only air as our working medium. So what was the first process we were having? The first process was nothing but compression stroke. So now compression stroke we have idealized with isentropic compression. So over here if you can see, this is point number 1 corresponding to bottom dead center, and from bottom dead center to top dead center we are having nothing but isentropic compression process. Okay, then what we are having during process number 2 to 3, we were having earlier combustion of the air and fuel. So now, as I have told you that in case of spark ignition engines, most of the combustion takes place while the piston is near the top dead center only. So what we have done, we have replaced the combustion process with heat addition process at constant volume. So this process 2 to 3 now is nothing but heat addition at constant volume. Then next we were having nothing but power stroke. So in power stroke, what was happening? Isentropic expansion was taking place. So this process 3 to 4 is nothing but our isentropic expansion process. Okay. And after that, what we were having? We were having first exhaust stroke. So during the exhaust stroke, from this point number 4, we were having some mechanical movement of the piston and cylinder. Now that mechanical movement of the piston and cylinder we have actually stopped, and what we considered that whatever the air and fuel mixture we are having at point number, whatever the working medium we are having at point number 4, from that working medium, what we are doing, we are removing certain amount of heat, and we are removing this heat in such a fashion so that the piston is once again at the bottom dead center. So if you try to see what was happening, first piston was going to top dead center, and till this we were having exhaust, and after that piston was once again coming back to bottom dead center, and then we were having the intake process. Now because we want to operate the system in an ideal thermodynamic cycle, so that's why we cannot allow physically our working medium to go outside and then fresh working medium to enter. Okay, rather what we will be considering, that we are having the same working medium and only it is going to some thermodynamic change such that it is returning back to the initial point. So that's why what we have done now, both exhaust and intake process we have replaced now with constant volume heat rejection process. So this is nothing but our constant volume heat rejection process from point number 4 to point number 1. And after 1, once again we can start the compression process. So it means after taking the air standard assumptions, we have come to an ideal thermodynamic cycle. Okay. And however, if you try to see, the nature of this ideal thermodynamic cycle is close enough to the actual cycle. So whatever the analysis we will be doing, that will be close enough to the performance of our petrol engines in actual scenarios. Okay. So this is about the pressure and volume diagram of Otto cycle. Now let me try to do the thermodynamic analysis of this system so that we are able to find out the efficiency of the cycle. Okay, so what I will be doing, let me start with the basic definitions. So one important point you have to remember now, that till this point, whatever the thermodynamic cycles we have studied, in all these thermodynamic cycles we were having the combination of steady flow devices. So that's why the individual processes were happening nothing but inside the open systems. However, in this particular thermodynamic system, what is happening, our cycle consists of piston cylinder arrangement. So this is nothing but a closed system. And what is happening, only because we are not having any exchange of mass, so only working medium is undergoing through certain thermodynamic state change. So that's why this process is nothing but our closed system process. Okay, so now what we will be doing, whatever the formulation we will be applying over here, that will be nothing but first law of thermodynamics for closed systems. Okay, so let me start with the heat input process. So we know that heat input, Q input, during process number where we are having heat input during process number 2 to 3. So in process number 2 to 3, what we are having addition of heat, so Q in, and then we will be having Q minus W, because work done also we have to consider, and our work done is nothing but integration of PdV from state number 2 to 3. That will be nothing but equal to change in energy. Now what we are doing, we are neglecting the changes in kinetic and potential energy. So change in energy will be nothing but equal to U3 minus U2. So whatever this analysis I am doing, it is nothing but on per kg basis. So I am considering that my equation is on per kg basis. Okay. So now if you see, During this process we are adding heat, so that's why Q in is positive, and during the heat addition process volume is constant, so because of that this dV term will be equal to 0, and ultimately our Q in will be nothing but equal to CV times T3 minus T2. Okay, so this is coming from the assumption of ideal gas, because we are considering over here air standard assumptions. Okay, then similarly if you go to process number 421, so process number 421 is nothing but a heat rejection process. For this process I can write minus of Q out equal to how much? Minus of Q out will be equal to nothing but, work is 0 once again, that will be nothing but equal to U1 minus U4, and ultimately I can write Q out as nothing but equal to, this process is also happening at constant volume, so CV times T4 minus T1. If I take the negative sign on the right hand side. Okay, and also this is a thermodynamic cycle, so obviously I can write that cyclic integral of del Q will be equal to cyclic integral of del W, or ultimately I can say that my W net will be nothing but equal to, because cyclic integral of del Q will be del W will be nothing but output minus input work, so that is net work, that will be equal to cyclic integral of del Q will be nothing but total change in heat, so total change in heat is Q in minus Q out, so W net I can write as Q in minus Q out over here. Okay, now what I will be doing, let me go further into the definition of efficiency. So this diagram over here is nothing but temperature entropy diagram for the same cycle. So if you try to see, process number 1 to 2 was nothing but isentropic compression, so that's why it is nothing but a vertical line on TS diagram. Then we were having constant volume heat addition during 2 to 3, 3 to 4. We were having isentropic expansion, and then 4 to 1 we were having constant volume heat rejection. Now we know that the definition of efficiency says that eta is equal to W net divided by Q input. Now eta W net I can replace with Q1 minus Q out, so ultimately I will be getting 1 minus Q out by Q in as my formulation of efficiency, and finally I can write eta is equal to 1 minus Q out is nothing but CV times T4 minus T1, and in the denominator also in Qn we will be having CV times T3 minus T2, so CV will be cancelling. I can ultimately write eta equal to 1 minus T4 minus T1 divided by T3 minus T2. Now if I take T1 and T2 as common, I will be finding 1 minus T1 divided by T2 is nothing but T4 by T1 minus 1 divided by T3 by T2 minus 1. Okay, so now what we have to do, we have to determine the relations between the temperatures and the volumes. Okay, so if we see the process number 2 to 3, the process number process number 1 to 2, process number 1 to 2 is nothing but an isentropic compression process. So for this process I can write down T2 power, so what we are having, nothing but for adiabatic process we are having PV power gamma equal to constant, and from ideal gas equation I can write PV is equal to RT. From here I can replace P with RT by V, and ultimately if I replace over here this value of P, R is constant, so I will be finding that nothing but P I have replaced, so I will be getting that T into V2 power gamma minus 1 is equal to constant for an adiabatic process. As the process 1 to 2 is reversible adiabatic process, so for this process I can write T1 V1 power gamma minus 1 equal to T2 V2 power gamma minus 1. Okay, so from here if I calculate, I can write the ratio of T2 by T1 as nothing but equal to V1 by V2 to power gamma minus 1. Okay. Now if you go to the PV diagram, you can see that V1 is nothing but volume corresponding to the bottom dead center, and V2 is nothing but volume corresponding to the top dead center. Okay, so finally I can write that ratio of V1 by V2 is nothing but I have already defined as our compression ratio, and I have used symbol R for defining the compression ratio. So I can write V1 by V2 as R to power R, and we are having power as gamma minus 1. So total T2 by T1 is becoming nothing but R to power gamma minus 1. Similarly, I am having this process number 3 to 4 as nothing but our expansion process. So for this process also I can write T3 and V3 power gamma minus 1 equal to T4 V4 power gamma minus 1. So from here finally I can write that the ratio of T3 by T4 is nothing but equal to V4 by V3 to power gamma minus 1. Okay, now if you once again see, you will be finding that V4 is nothing but equal to V1 and V3 is equal to V2. So because of that, what I can do, I can write the ratio of V4 by V3 once again as compression ratio R to power gamma minus 1. So from here what will be happening, I can equate this temperature T2 by T1 as equal to T3 by T4. So I can write finally that my T2 by T1 is nothing but equal to T3 by T4. Okay, so this one I can write. So from here what will be happening, ratio of T4 by T1 will be equal to ratio of T3 by T2. So it means this ratio of T4 by T1 is nothing but equal to ratio of T3 by T2. So I can replace this. So these two terms in numerator and denominator, so this term in numerator and denominator will be cancelling out, and ultimately we will be finding that our efficiency is nothing but equal to 1 minus T1 by T2. And we already know that T2 by T1 is R2 power gamma minus 1. So T1 by T2 I can write as 1 minus nothing but 1 by R2 power gamma minus 1. So this is nothing but our efficiency of the Otto cycle. Okay. Now one important point I would like to highlight over here, that you can see this efficiency is nothing but function of the compression ratio of the engine, and then this gamma over here is nothing but ratio of specific heat. So gamma is nothing but equal to Cp by Cv of our working medium. Okay, so if you try to see particularly for gamma equal to 1.4, you will be finding that with compression ratio R, efficiency of the Otto cycle will be following this particular trend. Okay, so this is the effect of compression ratio on efficiency of Otto cycle when we are taking the value of gamma as equal to 1.4. Now in this typical cycle, if you see, whatever the range from compression ratio close to 7 to 10, this is nothing but the compression ratio of typical petrol engines, or this petrol fuel is also known as gasoline fuel. So this is nothing but the typical practical value of compression ratio for our gasoline engines. Okay. Now if you see that if we are having the gases with different values of gamma, so over here in this book, this K is nothing but equal to gamma, or I can say that the ratio of Cp by Cv. So if you try to see for different values of gamma, if the value of gamma is increasing, your efficiency will be increasing, and for lower values of gamma, your efficiency will be decreasing. Now one important point I would like to highlight over here, as I have specified, you can see from here that as the compression ratio is being increased, your efficiency is actually increasing. So why we are limiting ourselves, particularly for petrol engines, at compression ratio of 10? So the reason behind this is that in case of real scenarios in petrol engines, we are allowing the mixture of air and fuel to enter inside the system, our piston cylinder arrangement. So while the compression is happening, after the compression stage, pressure and temperature of the air fuel mixture is increasing. So what we want to do, we want to keep the temperature of air and fuel mixture in such a fashion so that it is below the auto ignition temperature of the fuel. So what we have to do, we have to keep it below the auto ignition temperature. So what is the meaning of auto ignition temperature? Auto ignition temperature is something, the temperature at which automatically, without any spark, the combustion of fuel starts. Okay. So generally, as in case of spark ignition engines, we want to control the combustion with the help of spark plug, because if we are having auto ignition of the fuel, that leads to some another practical issues. So particularly that leads to one phenomena which is known as knocking, and knocking is actually detrimental for the life and operation of the engine. So we will not go into the details of knocking over here. So that is something which if you are interested, you can read from the textbooks of engines, or moreover those who are doing your courses in mechanical engineering program, they will be then later studying in courses of IC engines. Okay, so over here we just want to know the concept that what we want to do, we don't want to reach the mixture of air and fuel till our auto ignition temperature. So that's why what happens, the ratio of compression is selected in such a fashion so that the fuel is not reaching to its auto ignition temperature. So that's why the maximum value of compression ratio is actually limited in case of our petrol engines. Okay. So this is about the thermodynamic analysis of Otto cycle, and we have also seen the formulation of its efficiency also. Now let me just briefly introduce the concept of two-stroke SI engines. However, we will not go into the detailed analysis of this engine. I'll just introduce that what is the difference in mechanical cycle. Okay, so what particularly happens in case of a two-stroke SI engine, so whatever the work was earlier happening in 4 different strokes, that work is actually done only in 2 strokes. Okay, so what we are having over here, we are having nothing but exhaust port. So now we are not having any valve over here, only just the displacement of the piston is actually controlling the inlet and exhaust process. Okay, and over here we are having port for entering the air and fuel mixture inside the engine, and the region below this piston, or particularly in this crank area, is something which is known as the crankcase. So this type of two-stroke engine, our crankcase is actually normally sealed one, and over here we are having one mechanical port, and that is something which we call as intake port over here. So what will be happening when the piston is at topmost position? What will be happening? There will be ignition of the fuel. So because of this ignition, there will be increase in pressure and temperature of the gases in this region. Because of that, piston will be moving in downward direction. While the piston will be moving in downward direction, as our crankcase is perfectly sealed and it is every time filled with mixture of air and fuel, so during this downward motion of the piston, there will be partial compression of the air and fuel mixture. And when this location of the, as the piston will keep on moving down, at some point of time it will be opening this exhaust port. So because of that, what will be happening, when this, say this is our exhaust port, and say piston has reached somewhere over here, during that time what will be happening, whatever the mixture of hot gases we are having over here, some of these gases will also try to move in outward direction. Okay, so what we are having? We are having exhaust power stroke, where piston is moving in downward direction, and in the power stroke only there is partial compression of air and fuel mixture also, and there is exhaust of gases also in outward direction. Okay, and then what will be happening once the piston has reached the bottommost position? After that point, our intake port will be open, and because of that, whatever the gases we are having, these whatever this mixture of air and fuel we are having, that mixture of air and fuel will try to occupy this volume over here. And further, the timings of this intake and exhaust port are operated in such a fashion that for some duration of intake port, this exhaust port will also be in open position. So whatever the residual exhaust gases will be there, these will be pushed outside by fresh charge of air and fuel. Okay, and after that, once air and fuel mixture has entered, then during the upward motion of the piston, that mixture of air and fuel will be actually compressed, and at the same point of time, fresh air and fuel mixture will be entering into the crankcase. Okay, with the help of this port. So over here, if you try to see whatever the combination of different strokes we are having, that combination is happening only in two strokes. First, when piston is moving from top dead center to bottom dead center, and second, when piston is moving from bottom dead center to top dead center. So as for one complete stroke, the revolution of the crank is 180 degree. So it means as in two strokes only our entire cycle is happening. So entire cycle will be happening in nothing but 360 degrees of crank revolution. Okay, so from this point we can conclude that in case of 4-stroke engine, as I told you earlier, we were having one power stroke for two complete revolutions. In this type of arrangement, we will be having one power stroke in one revolution. So that's why if we consider two engines of same compression ratio, which are one is 4-stroke and one is 2-stroke, we will be having more number of power strokes per revolution in case of 2-stroke engines. However, there are many other type of losses which are associated with the 2-stroke engines, because of which generally the 2-stroke engines are less efficient in comparison to 4-stroke engines. Okay, this is one of the reason that in most of the advanced engines, people are only going for 4-stroke engines. However, if certain techniques are designed for reducing the losses in case of 2-stroke engines, this can prove to be more efficient in comparison to that of the 4-stroke engines. Okay, but what we will be doing in our present discussion, we will not go for detailed analysis of the 2-stroke engine. So we will keep ourselves limited till 4-stroke engines only. And in general also, the overall thermodynamic cycle and the overall analysis of 2-stroke engines is mostly identical to that of the 4-stroke engine only, and the only difference will be coming in number of power strokes per revolution of the crankshaft. Okay, so ideally if you consider that if you are having the same efficiency engines, same compression ratio engines, and if you consider that the losses in both the engines are identical, you will be finding that ideally 2-stroke engine should give 2 times work output in that of a 4-stroke engine. Okay, so what I will do, I will stop with the discussion of Otto cycle only in this lecture, and our subsequent discussion on diesel cycle I will try to complete in the next lecture.